Okay then guys, what's going on? Cloud Plays here and welcome back to another video here on the channel. And today we're inside a Starfield. Now we've just had the Starfield showcase and I've given myself a good day or so to scrub through the gameplay and scrub through the showcase itself, which was around 45 to 50 minutes long. Now it does look really good as an overall, and to be completely honest, I'm really impressed, but there are a lot of details and it's definitely served its purpose via the Starfield Direct. But there are some niggly things that I feel like people are definitely scraping over, or at least making excuses of, based on the factor of hype on its own. So with that being said, we're going to talk about that today. If you haven't already, smash that beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe with post notifications turned on. It'd be greatly appreciated. Also, when you're going ahead and getting your energy supplements, make sure you go ahead and use Advanced GG, the #1 clinically proven ingredients for esports as an overall. Make sure you use code CLOUD at checkout and we can dive on with it. So although one thing is definitely adamant that we've seen all over the internet over the last 24-48 hours is that it is at a 30 frames per second cap rate. Now that is something for me which, although is not a deal breaker, some of the greatest games of all time were at 30 frames per second, it does seem to be quite a big point, especially in today's day and age with all of these big consoles such as the Xbox Series X, the PlayStation 5 and or PC. There seems to be a lot of movements towards the frames per second. We did put a poll up just yesterday which obviously stated that Starfield is confirmed to be capped at 30 frames per second. Is this okay for you? With the primary movement saying no, that it wasn't, although a lot of people seem to be really okay with this. But one thing that's really niggling me, and although this isn't a game breaker or a deal breaker as an overall for getting the game, because I will 100% be playing through this, is that the fact that in a 45-minute showcase, a 50-minute showcase within the Starfield Direct, we have no gameplay whatsoever of ships flying within the vicinity of a planet. Now we do know that we take our ship and we are able to land it on absolutely any planet, and there seems to be thousands upon thousands of them, which obviously leads to a lot of background data, but it seems to be that the highlights were definitely not there. What we have highlighted for sure is that you seem to walk everywhere. The animation takes you over to the planet, you end up landing on the planet via a in-game animation, and then you just walk the rest of the way. Now this is okay for games like No Man's Sky and stuff, which obviously is, although it was really big, each planet was kind of capped in size, and although still big, it was a snippet of the size that Starfield are making these planets. They are almost, I say almost because obviously you can't be completely accurate, but they are almost as certain that each planet is pretty much completely and utterly unavailable for full discovery. What this means is it doesn't matter how much you go round, you are not going to be able to search the planets at its full capacity, meaning that they are comparing this to an actual real life world sizing. Now I hope that this is not the case, because it is confusing that we wouldn't get to see this style gameplay now. And obviously in-game, the planet flight would be something that in a 45 to 50 minute showcase you would think that we would see, but there are numerous ways of working around it, and maybe this is just information that they haven't posted up, or even that they have in sort of articles and stuff like that that I haven't seen, in which case this video is completely null and void. But maybe there are other ways of working it. Maybe there are different landing spots within each planet style, which would mean that you'd have to return to orbit and relocate to explore the rest of that map, which again would work to a degree, but there are so many different ways of working it, such as in-game, in-planet vehicles. So if there is an issue with this as an overall, then maybe small drone cars or vehicles on land would resolve this massively. I mean, each of these planets is so big you'll never be able to explore the whole one. It may seem small, but I just don't see why this is an issue to people at all. It really makes no sense why this isn't being spoken about. There is one YouTuber I do know that has kind of pushed the narrative on this and is a little bit confused, a lot like myself, and this is Luke Stevens, a really big YouTuber in the scene. The guy is absolutely incredible and does not believe that any game is absolutely perfect, so that the overhype on these games that we're having, such as Starfield, which has been hyped to the high hilts for maybe the last year and a half, is just not always going to come out perfect. The problem is we get our hopes up so freaking high that the anticipation behind it just never meets what it is that we're actively doing. Now, maybe there is a frame rate issue which is currently being worked on, we don't know, but which is why we've not really seen it. It would make a lot of sense. Now, we know the game is capped at 30 frames per second, which on its own is a little bit crazy in 2023, especially considering the consoles and PC specs that we're able to run on in this current climate. It's a little bit confusing. But you've kind of got to ask yourself now, it may well be that the game is just not in the right position for that style gameplay, and that's kind of why they've not shown it. Maybe the frame rates are capping the way that you can maneuver around the map on a ship, and they haven't yet figured that one out, meaning that there may be glitches, bugs, frame drops, and all of this sort of stuff, which would make a lot of sense. Although the game is still in production, it is a little bit confusing that it's just not been broached whatsoever. Now, what does confuse me though is that although this game did manage to launch broken, No Man's Sky managed this 7 to 8 years ago now, and it's completely under wraps. They've managed to fix absolutely everything inside of the game, and they've managed to get pretty much to the point where it should be at launch level. So they've really fixed that around and turned it over, which is why now the saying goes, when a game is launched broken and they manage to fix it, it's the No Man's Sky effect. That's how that one kind of pans around. Now, Starfield is not going to launch in a perfect state. Anybody who believes that is absolutely delusional and has got absolutely no idea how the gaming industry works and how difficult it is to be able to get this thing right. Although game testers are available, people will be testing the game, hundreds and maybe thousands of people will be testing the game. The moment that you launch a game to the millions, it's a very different ball game when you have a million different varieties and variables inside of consoles and PC specs that are definitely going to mean that this game is not going to launch on a perfect state. Now, none of these problems are deal breakers though. This is a realistic look at the game, and we solidly believe here that although we can talk about the positives and all of the cool stuff inside of games and stuff like that, that we just can't take the hype and run with it. It's just not the perfect world when you just can't physically prove that anything is going to come out on top form. And especially with a game like Starfield, which is probably one of the biggest games of the century, this is borderline impossible that you're going to be able to hit this. You can't actually manage to cause a no-course effect when it comes to the game release as an overall. 30 frames per second, it's not a deal breaker, but it is absolutely gutting, and I know that that at the moment is causing a massive rippling effect online, with 60 frames per second actually trending on Twitter just yesterday because it does seem unrealistic. This, for me, as far as being able to walk around the whole planet and not being able to have in-planet flight, is a big deal, and I don't understand why it's not being pushed to be the case. It's not a deal breaker. Like I said, I'm still going to be playing it, but I feel like it's definitely something that should be spoke about. Especially when we have such big movements around the ships in general. The customization looks absolutely incredible and it is so damn detailed. And then when we go to sort of like intergalactic exploration, there is so much that you can do up there. It is mental. The combat system is incredible. The flight simulations are absolutely amazing. Why it is that once we get down to the planet, it just kind of evaporates, or at least that's how it looks. We had an hour of gameplay and saw nothing about in-planet flying. Maybe I'm just being absolutely crazy, but this for me is an absolutely massive deal. I don't want to spend 4 hours just trying to get to a location in a long distance. Maybe we see an icon or a point of interest when we're on a planet and we have to walk there. What if it's about 4 or 5 miles away in game and it takes you a solid hour before you can actually reach it? We don't know the speed of how fast you can run, whether the actual movement of gravity is in place in these planets, and whether you can jump and boost yourself forward. There's no real motive to know how this game genuinely plays when it comes to the in-planet movement. I feel like this is something that should be addressed, and if anyone has any articles that has addressed it, please let me know in the comment section below. I'll make sure that I post it up, and then we will remove this video and post a new one in its place, obviously revolving around how the in-planet system genuinely works. But I myself did a bit of research and could find absolutely nothing around it. This is a big issue for me. I'm just going to be honest with you. Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, smash that beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe, post notifications turned on. Appreciate your faces, and always until the next time, I'll see you in the clouds.